So good morning, everybody. Ryo-san was telling me that he is really excited to be here. Looking forward to having this panel with you guys, and he was kind of curious. What do you guys really want to get from this panel today? He's really open to what you guys want to experience, what you guys want to hear from Ryo-san here today. Anything? Sounds great. So let's start off with then some questions and answers, then we'll go from there. You guys have any questions? Then sir with the glasses.
I wanted to learn about how Ryo Horikawa got into voice acting for anime.
Okay, the question was, how did Ryo-san get into voice acting for anime?
最初にこの世界に入ったのが、ボーイッシュみたいな、夢選手ウィングマンっていう作品がありました。それが僕はアニメを最初で作品でしたね。聞こえません。Sorry. Sorry. 夢選手ウィングマンっていうのが僕の最初にやった作品ですね。それが、そんなに僕は受かると思ってなかったんですけれど、そこからが僕のアニメの仕事のキャリアのスタートですね。何年前かは言いたくないですけど、そういうやつが。
So Ryo-san said that, specifically concerning anime, he auditioned for an anime called Yume Senshi Wingman, or Wingman, as we might call it here. Okay, and he didn't think he was gonna get the audition, get the part that he auditioned for, but he was able to get it, and that kind of started his career into voice acting in anime. But he's really reluctant to tell you how many years ago that really was. Sir.
Yeah. One question is, has he ever had a character that he just couldn't get in the spirit of doing? And if so, how did he work around that to be able to perform the job?
じゃあ、キャラクターで映像できないっていう演ができないっていうキャラクターいましたか？もしいたら
それはないですね。どんなキャラクターでも僕はやるつもりですし、できないということを自分自身に認められない負けず嫌いなところ。
He said no. Him personally, he doesn't feel that there's not much he can't do. He doesn't like to recognize the fact that there are limitations, for himself or for anything for that matter. So he's never encountered it.
Good answer.
Okay, sir in the back.
Do you have a preference between voicing different media like anime or games or different types of voice acting work?
ゲームとかアニメとか何が好きですか？
何でも好きですけど、表現することが僕は何も好きなので、それはゲームであろうと、テレビであろうと、例えば劇場公開、映画であろうと、何でやっても見てくれる方がいらっしゃるわけですから、それが一番大事なことです。
He said, he actually enjoys working on any kind of media, whether it be TV, movie, games, anime, it doesn't matter. He really enjoys working, doing whatever. For him, the most important thing is to, do his work, always constantly keeping in mind about how the viewers are going to perceive his work and how they'll, kind of interpret his work. That's what's most important to him, not so much the medium that he is participating in.
Who's been your favorite character as a voice actor?
難しいね、いつも聞かれるんだけど、別に希望と言ってるつもりはないんですけど、自分がやってるキャラクターっていうのは全て愛さないとできないんですよ。 全てのキャラクターっていうのは僕やっぱり全身全霊で命を込めてやってるつもりなので、なんて言うんでしょうね、別に見るから私たち何やってるわっていうのは全て自分でやってるキャラクターを愛さないとできないかなと思います。はい。
So that's a really difficult question. It's something that is often asked, what's your favorite character? And he always has a problem, answering this question, despite the fact that it gets asked so often. The reason is because, he feels that when he takes on a character, he has to completely be in love with that character. He has to, completely absorb everything what the character is about for him to be able to, perform the character, be the character. He has an image of that character, and he really loves that character. So, he doesn't really view it from the outside looking in, like, this character I enjoy. It's more, I love this character, and therefore, I can perform this character. So it's a very difficult question to answer.
自分の心の中に思っていること、例えばそのキャラクターに対して、なんだろうな、役者の仕事って、とてもそこは特別なんだと思うんですけれど、他の人の人生を生きることができるわけです。僕は堀川っていう一人の人間として自分の人生を生きていますけれど、例えばベジータであるか、他のキャラクターであるか、それぞれの人生を生きることができる。だから表現する仕事ってとても特別であるし、まだそこは楽しみなのかな。
So, he feels that, actors in general, they're very privileged in that they're allowed to live other people's lives. They're able to, step into another person's life and become that person. And he feels that that's a huge privilege as an actor, voice actor, whatever the case may be. That's something that, he thinks is extremely important to have this opportunity to live a person's life, such as something like Vegeta. He gets to be Vegeta. And for him, that's something he thinks it's very special. He never takes that for granted. And it's something that brings immense joy and enjoyment to his work and joy to his life.
I'm just kind of curious, how does the auditioning process work?
オーディションするときですか。オーディションっていうか、僕はずっと子供の頃から、お芝居というか、ステージであったりとか、普通に映画であったりとか、子役ですね、日本語でやっていたんで、まさかその時ってアニメをやると思ってなかったんですよ。僕は子供時代ね。僕も子供時代っていうのはアニメを見てましたし、例えば鉄腕の時だったりとか、非常に名詞が見てたんですけど、まさか自分がやるとはやるようになるとは思ってなかったんで、その最初のオーディションでまさか受かるわけはないと思ってたんです。チャレンジしない。でもそれが、受かって認められて、でそこからいろんな仕事が、舞い込むようになって、だからなんでしょうね、不思議ですね。
So, for him personally, what he can say as far as auditions and, what that's like, Ryo-san's been an actor since he was very little. So, I guess we would call it child actor. He was, he did a lot of stage work, a lot of film work. So, he started as a child, and, he had a lot of exposure doing entertainment work that way. So he didn't really think about, he was going to get into anime at all, actually, during those days. He was just a child, and he enjoyed watching anime. So, he'd come home and he'd watch Astro Boy and really love it, but never, in the bottom of his mind did he think, oh, I'm going to do anime. He just really enjoyed watching anime, just like everybody else. So when he went to that first audition, he didn't think he was going to get it. In fact, he was really surprised when he did get the part, but, he did get the part. And so, once he was accepted, the work started to come in from there. So, something that he always reflects on and thinks, man, that's pretty special.
奪った時はすごく嬉しかったですよね。
He was extremely happy when he got it, though. He wants to make sure you guys know that.
Yes, I was wondering, how often do you work directly with people within the same recording session? Is there a particular voice actor or actress who you work directly with who you felt brought out the best in you in terms of character development?
いつも一緒に2つ目は話したけれど、
なんだろうな、例えば日本の場合だと一つの作品、例えばドラゴンボールとか何でもいいんですけど、撮る時っていうのは全てのキャラクターやってる人が一度にスタジオに集まってレコーディングをするというのが普通なんですけど、場合によっては一人一人スケジュールが合わない時がありますので、抜き取りということになりますけれど、今も聞いたんですけど、アメリカの場合っていうのは結構一人一人で単独で撮るというのが多いというふうに聞いてるんですけど、要するにみんなで一緒になると、なんていうのかな、演技者同士のその呼吸というか、間合いというのが測れて、もうそっちの方が好きなんですよ。いいわけですとして。だから、なんだろう、例えば、誰でもいいですけれど、古谷さんとか、神谷先生とか、野沢雅子さんとか、いろいろいらっしゃいますが、でもいつも一緒にやってるってわけじゃないんですよね。
So to answer, the question was, are there voice actors he likes to work with very often, and if there's any actor that he's worked with that brings out the best in him? So to answer that question, it's kind of hard. For example, in Japan, if there's one project that they're working on, all the actors will go to the studio all at the same time, be in the same recording booth all together. And so, sometimes, of course, schedule doesn't fit, and that's not possible. You have to do individual recordings and such. But for the most part, they all are in the studio together, and they're all working together. So by doing so, there's a lot of synergy there. There's a lot of, you can feed off of each other in that kind of environment where you're all in the same room and you're working with each other. You kind of get that unspoken vibe that you can get from people, interacting with them that way. So, he heard that, here in the U.S., most voice actors, they go in individually and, record on their own. So in that sense, it's hard to answer your question, who brings out the best in you. And of course, there are many, many actors that he works with that, he can say that's the case. But, it's more the group being in the studio, I think, allows, that kind of relationships to develop.
どれがいいかって言えないけど、いろんなやり方があるので、何でもいいんですけど、でも
you can't say, who's the best or what's the best way. You know what I mean? You can't say, oh, the way they do it in Japan is better than the way you do it in the U.S. is better. You can't say that. There's many different ways of approaching it, of course. Let's make sure that's very clear too.
コミュニケーションを取るというのが非常に大事なことだと思いますね。例えば、僕がやってるクリストファーそうですし、キムシ、リー君そうですし、いろんな方がいらっしゃると思います。だから、そういうことでアメリカに来て、コミュニケーションを取ることはすごく大事なことで、とても大事なことで、嬉しいことです。
For him, communication is important. It's extremely important. So, he feels very fortunate that he was able to come to the U.S. here on this trip, and meet and talk with, and see Vic, and Christopher, and all the other people that he wants to see, and he really appreciates that opportunity. It brings great enjoyment and joy to his, to his life when he's able to have these opportunities. He's very grateful for that chance. Hi.
Thank you. We were lucky enough to have Horikawa with us at the basement. And he was talking to his people in Dragon Ball Z. So he was talking about battle. How do stage have to do battle, how they have to practice to do a battle cry. So yeah, feels like that. Oh, that's how the director told us to practice with that battle cry. So yeah, this is another story. So between you and Horikawa-san, personally, do you think you have a better battle cry? And is there any funny behind the scenes stories?
彼女は前古川さんとカンベンションで会ったんで話を聞いたんですけど、その時に戦いの声について話を聞いたんです。練習とか使い方とかいろいろ聞いたので、りょうさんと古川さんとどっちが戦いの声がいいですか？いいと思いますか？でもし面白い話だったら。
2人ともいいと思います。
They're both equally.
質問の答えにはなってませんけれど、古川さんもそうですし、野沢雅子さんもそうですし、とても素敵な人。大体レコーディング終わると食事に行くことが多いんですけれど、野沢雅子さんがとてもキュートな方なので、そういうのはやっぱり出るのかな、アーティングするときに、その人の人間性というのがやっぱり出るんだなっていう気がしますね。
So you apologize. That's not, a real serious answer to your question. And he apologizes for that. But it's really difficult to answer because, the people he gets the opportunity to work with, they're all really, really great people. He has a lot of respect for the people that he gets to work with. He spends a lot of time with them. They go out to eat together. So he, gets to know them intimately, and he really thinks very, highly of the people he gets the chance to work with, especially on projects like Dragon Ball Z, where they've been together for a while. And he thinks that, the personality of the people he works with comes out in their voices and in the characters that they're portraying. And he thinks that... Oh, in everything, yeah. So in everything that they do, their personality comes out, so he thinks that's very fascinating. It's really enjoyable for him to watch.
例えば悪役をやっても、例えばヒーローをやっても、全部そうだと思いますけど、その人のキャラクターというか人間性っていうのが出てくると思う、どっかに出てくると思うんですよ。それがいわゆる映像であっても、ボイスであっても。
So he thinks that, regardless of whether that person plays the role of, say, a villain or a hero, their personality comes through, whether it be voice acting or as a screen actor or on stage or whatever the case may be, as an actor, their personality comes out, and that's coming from somewhere, from within them.
だって俺なんてひどいやつで何人も殺してるし、仕事を潰してるしね。
He said, he's an awful person. Think about it. Think about how many people he's killed, how many planets he's destroyed. He's an awful man.
Yeah, what would that look like? They're nice.
例えば悪人だろうが、例えば正義のヒーローだろうが、やっぱりその人のパーソナリティが出てくると思うので、僕が一番気をつけているということは、普段どう生きているか、それってすごく大事なことだと思うんですよ。それがボイスアクティングであろうが、例えば歌であろうが、ステージであろうが、ライブであろうが、やっぱり出てくると思うんですよ。それは隠しきれない、嘘をつけないと僕は思います。
So, whether it be anime, let's say it's anime, you're playing a hero or a villain, like you were saying, your personality comes out, right? Even in song or on stage, anything that you do, your personality comes out, right? I mean, you just can't help that. We all know what he's talking about. So the most important thing for him that he's very careful of and cognizant about is how he lives his life every day. Because he knows that your personality comes out. It's something that you cannot hide or lie about when you're, singing or you're acting. regardless of the medium of the actor, it's going to come through. He really believes that. So he's very, very careful and cognizant about how, he lives his life every day.
そうだから自分がどう生きてきたかっていうのが出てしまうので、そう、まあ例えば若い人たちにヤングジェネレーションに言ってることなんですけど、芝居が上手い人、あるいは歌が上手い人、いくらでもいる。プロの中でも、その中でキャスティングされる人っていうのは選ばれるじゃないですか。それを選ばれるためにはどうすればいいかとなると、ものすごく難しいと思うんですよ。だからそれが僕はいつも若手に言ってる、なんていうのかな、いい男でいい女であれよ、素敵な人間であれよっていうことが一番大事なことだと思うんですね。
So, kind of, you were saying that, kind of advice to like the younger people really, is that right now, today, there's a lot of good actors, technically wise. There's a lot of great singers with wonderful voices. There's a lot of them out there right now. So it becomes an issue of casting. How do you get picked? How do you get selected among all the people with all this talent? And that's where your personality comes out. That's why it's so important. So that's why you have to be a good person. You have to strive to be a great person. Because it is so important when it comes to that issue. I hope that was a good answer to your question.
Very great answer.
Sir in the back.
Very simple question for any series aside, how do you feel is your favorite, scene that you've acted out? Very straightforward question. Like within any series, how do you feel is your favorite scene that you've acted out? Like, which is your favorite scene you've acted out?
難しいね。何でもいいんです。何でもいいですね。何でもいい。一番好きだ。
一番好き、全部好きなんですけど、僕ね、演じてる側から言うのは変なんですけど、全てのキャラ、自分がやったキャラクター愛さないとできないんですよ。だからこれがいい、優劣はないんですよ。これが悪いとかないんですよ。こっちがいい、あっちがっていう順番がないんで、それはちゃんとやっぱり演技者としてはダメだとあったとしてはダメだと思うんですね。だから綺麗事ではなく自分のやった役、それがどんなキャラクターであってもやっぱり愛してやらないと、僕の場合ですよ。他の人は知りませんが、僕の場合はやっぱりそうしないとできないかなという気がするんですね。
So that's a really difficult question, one that is asked too, pretty frequently. But it comes back to the question was if there was a favorite scene that he had, regardless of the series. And that's a really difficult question for him to answer because, as he said previously, he has to love the character that he's playing. He is the character that he's playing. He has to love that character. There's no priority. There's no order. To those characters that he loves and enjoys. And as an actor, he thinks he can't really do the work unless you do love the character, And that's just him personally, It's not saying everybody else, is like this. But him personally, he has to love that character. He can't do it otherwise. So it's really difficult to say, what character or what particular scene because he truly loves that character.
例えばベジータなんてひどいやつじゃないですか。ね。人殺しもするし、でも愛さないといけないから。
So, for example, take Vegeta. He's a horrible person. He kills a lot of people. But, despite that, he loves that character, or he cannot play that character. He cannot be that character.
I never kill people.
Sir,
You partially answered my question earlier. I was going to ask about your background, but you said earlier you were a child actor. I was wondering if there was any other kind of specialized training or schooling you've had for voice acting work or stage work or anything like that.
今実際に日本で、学院をやってるんですけど、次のジェネレーション、育てていくジェネレーションのために僕は何を伝えられるかっていうことも大事なことだと思うので、やってるんですけど、今先ほども言った通り、もちろんレッスン、日々のレッスン、フィジカルなレッスンもそうですし、メンタル両方あると思うんですけど、発声法であるとか、それはもちろん大事なトレーニングなので、それを教えてますが、でも最終的に一番大事なところっていうのは、今言ったパーソナリティ、人間性、これは教えることはできないんですよ、人が人に。例えばトレーニングっていうのはノウハウっていうのは教えることができますけど、でもその人間性であるとか、その人のパーソナリティ、個性であるというのは教えることができないと思うので、それは自分自身が掴み取っていくしかないと思うんですね。Sorry, I can't speak English.
So, the question was, if he's taking, any training now, doing anything now to further his career. I guess is that?
Well, I would like his background.
His background. Okay, so going to that, it's a good question. Right now in Japan, he has a school, where he teaches, and he thinks it's important to raise up the next generation, and kind of teach them. He thinks that teaching is extremely important, to further the development of the next generation that's coming on. And of course, it's important to have to teach the physical, lessons or the mental aspects of the work that you're going to be doing, and the technical aspects as well. All that is extremely important. But again, the most important thing is the personality, your human nature, yourself, your psyche, if you will. That's what's most important. That's something that something that you yourself is going to have to grab, to master, to take on yourself, to develop, to further that. Teaching the technique, he can do that. He can teach you all the technique that you need, but the most important thing that has to be developed is up to you.
Yeah. That's right. 最初から自分自身が怖いぐらいに出てきちゃいますから、そういう人がいてもどんな役をやったとしても、だから演じてる人、actor, actress, whatever、非常に大事なことというのは、何をやってもやっぱその人の人間性が出てきちゃうから、その人自身が素敵じゃないと、どんな、例えば王子様であろうが、ヒロインであろうが、何をやっても素敵じゃなくなる。その人が逆に言うとショーだったらね、その人が素敵だったら、ホームレスであろうが何であろうが、素敵に見える。その人が持っている人間性、どっかで出てきちゃう、多いようで隠しようがないので、だから、どういう生きてるかということが一番大事かな。もしもと思います。と思います。
はい。So, he was saying that it's scary, in fact, if you think about it, how much of your personality, how much of your human nature, your psyche comes out in these characters, regardless of the medium, again, an actor, singer, doesn't matter. You, personality, yourself, you are going to come out in your work. It's unavoidable. So, again, since it comes out that much, if you aren't a great person, if you don't develop that, if you aren't capable, if you don't be cognizant of that, you're not going to be able to make the character great, whether it be a king, a hero, a queen, or a homeless person, or a villain. Whatever the role may be, you're not going to be able to make that great. Whatever that character is, you cannot push it to its fullest potential, because you can't hide it. You can't hide your personality. You can't run from that. So it's all dependent on how you live real life every day. So you really have to be cognizant of that, be aware of that every day.